My husband thought I was crying because he was leaving me. He didn't know I was crying because the FBI was running 5 minutes late. Grant checked his Rolex for the third time in 2 minutes. He let out a heavy, irritated sigh. "Elena, please," he said, snapping the latches on his vintage leather suitcase. "Don't make this more pathetic than it already is. The Uber is 5 minutes away. Have some dignity." I was clinging to his arm, tears streaming down my face. "Grant, you can't just leave," I sobbed. 15 years. Just sit down. Just talk to me for 10 minutes. Please, baby, just 10 minutes. He tried to shake me off. He saw a broken woman, a desperate housewife. He saw exactly what I wanted him to see. What he didn't see was me glancing at the microwave clock over his shoulder. 7:14 p.m. I wasn't crying because I was heartbroken. I was crying because the FBI field office is exactly 22 minutes away, and my contact had texted me at 6:58 p.m. saying they were rolling out. I needed to keep Grant in this kitchen for exactly 6 more minutes. So I wailed louder. I threw myself between him and the back door. "Move, Elena," Grant barked. "It's over. I'll have my lawyers contact you about the house." "But what about us?" I shrieked. "There is no us," he shouted. "I'm in love with someone else, someone who actually understands my ambition." I knew who someone was. Jessica, his 26-year-old executive assistant. I knew she was currently waiting for him at the private terminal. I wondered if they served champagne in federal holding cells. "Is it Jessica?" I asked, feigning shock. "She's a partner," he corrected, "and she's waiting. Now let go of the bag." 7:16 p.m. 4 minutes left. I wiped my nose with the back of my hand. "You're running away," I whispered. "You're scared. The board found something, didn't they?" Grant froze. The vanity in him couldn't resist. He turned back to me with a smug, cruel smile. "The board?" he laughed. "Elena, you sweet, simple idiot. I am the board. I'm not running away because I'm scared. I'm leaving because I've won. I've cashed out." "Ian, but the audit," I stammered. "The audit is a joke," he sneered. "By the time they figure it out, I'll be sipping a Negroni on a beach with no extradition treaty. And you? You'll be explaining to the neighbors why you're having an estate sale. You were a good prop, Elena, but let's be honest, you never really knew what was going on, did you?" I looked into his eyes. 7:18 p.m., 2 minutes. "I guess I didn't," I whispered. "Exactly. Goodbye, Elena." "Wait!" I shouted. "My passport. It's in the floor safe in the study. Just give me my passport. Please, don't leave me stranded here without ID." He looked down at me with pure contempt. "You are pathetic. Fine." He dropped the suitcase and stormed toward the study. I stayed on the floor until he was out of sight. Then I calmly stood up, walked over to the kitchen island, and wiped my face with a paper towel. I heard the beep, beep, beep of the digital safe. I knew exactly what was inside. My passport, yes, but also a flash drive I had swapped 3 days ago. The one he was about to grab contained a direct link to the cloud server where I had uploaded every incriminating document he had ever signed. Storming back, tossing my passport onto the floor. "There," he spat. "Happy? Now get out of my way." He reached for the doorknob. 7:19 p.m. "Grant," I said, my voice suddenly steady. No tears, no trembling, just cold, hard clarity. He paused, sensing the shift. "What?" "You forgot your scarf," I said calmly. "It's going to be cold where you're going." "It's 80 degrees in the Cayman Islands," he scoffed. "I know," I replied, "but it gets very chilly in federal prison." For a second, there was total silence. Grant's face went pale. "What did you say?" And then we heard it. A siren wailing in the distance. Then another. Then the screech of tires. Blue and red lights flashed against the kitchen window. "Federal agents! Surround the perimeter!" A voice boomed from outside. Grant spun around, his eyes wide. Elena? What did you do? I picked up his suitcase and set it upright. I stalled, Grant, I said, smiling. I stalled. The front door burst open. FBI! Hands where we can see them! Grant looked at the armed agents, then at me. He was trapped. You, he snarled. You witch. That's Mrs. Witch to you, I said sweetly. Or, actually, I suppose it's witness for the prosecution now. Agent Miller stepped into the kitchen. Grant Mercer, you are under arrest for securities fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. As they slammed Grant against the granite countertop, I walked over to the wine fridge and poured a glass of Pinot Grigio. Grant was screaming as they dragged him out in handcuffs. But I knew the real show was just beginning. The money was just the tip of the iceberg. What I found in his encrypted files involved his business trips to Eastern Europe, something much darker. I took a sip of wine and looked at the empty spot where my husband had been standing. One down, I whispered to the empty room. 2 to go. Grant is going to prison, but who are the other 2 targets on Elena's list? And what dark secrets did she find on that hard drive? Hit like and subscribe for part 2 to see Elena take down the rest of the empire. You won't want to miss who is next. Elena just took down her husband. Now she has to survive his mistress and the mob. The text message from his mistress came through to his phone at 8:03 p.m., exactly 44 minutes after the FBI dragged my husband out of our kitchen. Grant's phone was sitting on the marble island. It buzzed aggressively. Where are you? The pilot is getting annoyed. I'm opening the champagne without you. I stared at the screen, a glass of Pinot Grigio in my hand, and smiled. I picked up the device. I knew his passcode. It was 0522, Jessica's birthday. How cliché. I typed a reply slowly. Grant can't make it. He's trading his tuxedo for an orange jumpsuit. I hope you brought cash for a cab. The corporate card has just been declined. I hit send. Then I dropped the phone into a pitcher of water standing in the sink. Agent Miller looked up. Slipped, I said, taking another sip of wine. Careful, Mrs. Mercer, Miller said. You still have to play the grieving, confused wife for the press. I practiced in the mirror this morning, I assured him. I can produce tears on command. The next 3 hours were a blur of controlled chaos. Men and windbreakers stripped the house of everything that made it a Mercer estate. They left behind just the shell, and I felt relief. By midnight, the house was quiet. I walked upstairs to the master bedroom and pulled a burner phone from my nightstand. I dialed my lawyer. It's done, I said. They took the decoy drive, the one with the embezzlement evidence. And the real drive? She asked. Safe. Buried in the garden under the hydrangeas. The feds have enough to lock him away for the money. We don't need to release the other files yet. That's our insurance policy. Smart, she said. If he talks, we bury him with the rest. I hung up and flushed the SIM card down the toilet. The next morning at 9 a.m., the doorbell rang. An aggressive, desperate ring. I checked the camera. Jessica. She looked frantic. Her hair was messy. She wasn't the glitzy doll anymore. She was a rat whose ship had just sunk. I opened the door. Where is he? She screamed. Where is the money, Elena? Good morning to you too, Jessica, I said calmly. Cut the crap! My cards are frozen. The landlord just called me. The payment bounced. Grant pays that rent. Not anymore, I said. The FBI seized all assets last night. That includes the accounts Grant uses to pay for his hobbies. I am not a hobby, she shrieked. I am his partner. I am the VP of Marketing. VP of Marketing? I laughed. Sweetie, you were on the payroll as a consultant, and do you know what the feds call a consultant who receives 10 grand a month from a company with no product? Money laundering. She froze. What? You weren't an employee, Jessica. You were a funnel. Jessica's face went pale. No. Grant said it was legal. Grant says a lot of things, I replied. He told me he loved me. He told you he was going to marry you. Look where we both are. She staggered back. I need to explain to the police. I didn't know. Ignorance isn't a defense in federal court, Jessica, especially when you have a closet full of stolen Birkin bags. But here's the good news. You're not under arrest yet. Agent Miller thinks you're a co-conspirator. But if you cooperate, if you hand over the emails, the travel logs from Prague. She looked at me, eyes wide. How do you know about Prague? I know everything. Grant is going down. Are you going down with him, or are you going to help me bury him? She trembled. Loyalty evaporated instantly. What do you want me to do? I want his laptop, I said. The silver MacBook Air he keeps at your apartment. Jessica bit her lip. He told me never to touch that laptop. He said he'd kill me. He's in a holding cell, I said. Bring it here. Now. She ran to her car and returned clutching the laptop like a shield. Here, take it. Just tell them I helped. I took the cold metal device. Get out of my house. She fled. I locked the door and sat on the floor. I bypassed the password. I found a folder labeled System 32. Inside was a list of names. Not just investors, but judges, senators, police captains. My blood ran cold. Grant wasn't just stealing money. He was washing it for half the corrupt officials in Chicago. Suddenly, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Mercer, a deep voice said, we are friends of your husband's business partners. We are looking for a silver laptop. We believe Jessica might have it. My heart hammered. I don't know anything about a laptop, I said steadily. That's a shame, the man said, because if that laptop ends up in federal custody, accidents happen, Mrs. Mercer. House fires happen. Do you understand? I understand, I said. So good. We'll be in touch. The line went dead. I looked at the laptop in my lap. I was no longer just a witness. I was a target. Elena is holding a digital bomb, and the mob knows where she lives. What should she do next? Hand it to the FBI or run? Hit like and subscribe for part 3 to see if Elena survives the night. Elena just realized the FBI agent protecting her is actually the hitman hired to kill her. Now she has to break her husband out of prison to survive. The black sedan was parked 3 houses down. Engine off, lights off. In a quiet neighborhood, a car that doesn't belong screams louder than a siren. I stood in the dark, peeking through the blinds. The investors weren't just threatening me, they were timing me. I moved to the pantry. Behind the cereal boxes, there was a loose panel. I pulled it open. Inside was a duffel bag. My go bag, $50,000 cash, a wig, and keys to a 10-year-old Honda Civic stored 3 miles away. Grant drove Porsches. I drove a Ghost. I grabbed the silver MacBook. It felt heavy, like I was carrying a bomb. I shoved it into the bag. I didn't use the back door. Instead, I crawled through the old coal chute in the basement. It was tight and filthy. I squeezed through, scraping my arm, and crawled through the neighbor's bushes. I ran 4 streets away and called an Uber under a fake name. 2 hours later, I was in a grimy motel room. I had cut my hair into a sharp bob and dyed it dark brown. The blonde trophy wife was gone. I opened the laptop. I needed to know what I was holding. I opened a spreadsheet labeled Transactions ACE Q3. My breath caught. These weren't just bribes. These were weapons shipments. And then I saw a name that made my stomach drop. Payment $25,000. CPT. D. Miller. Miller. Agent Miller. The FBI agent who arrested Grant. The man I thought was my ally. I sat back on the bed. Miller wasn't catching Grant to stop the crime. He was catching Grant to contain the breach. He wasn't gathering evidence. He was hunting for the kill list that had his own name on it. I was completely alone. I couldn't go to the police. I couldn't go to the FBI. And the mob was hunting me. I needed leverage. And there was only one person who could explain this data. I needed to see my husband. The next morning, I arrived at the Metropolitan Correctional Center. When they brought Grant out, he looked diminished. The arrogance was gone. You? He croaked. You ruined everything. I saved you from a bullet, I said coldly. Or did you think the investors were going to let you retire? Grant leaned in, terrified. How do you know about the investors? I have the laptop, Grant. His face went white. Elena, throw that thing in the river. If they know you have it, they already know, I interrupted. And I saw Miller's name on the payroll. Grant nodded grimly. Miller works for Volkov, Russian organized crime. Miller arrested me to get that laptop. Elena, give it to him. Maybe he'll let you live. If I give it to him, I have no leverage, I said. So what are you gonna do? You're a housewife. You can't fight the Russian mob. I handled a narcissist for 15 years, didn't I? I retorted. I think I can handle a few thugs. Grant lowered his voice. Listen, there's a file, blackbox.easy, do not open it. It pings Volkov's security team. They'll know exactly where you are. My blood ran cold. Does the laptop track location? Once upon a time, there was a beautiful little girl named Sabrina, living happily until one day, an evil witch appeared and changed everything. I slammed the phone down. I had connected to the motel Wi-Fi an hour ago. They knew where I was. I burst out of the prison and ran to an electronics store. I bought a Faraday bag, a signal-blocking pouch, and shoved the laptop inside. My phone buzzed. It was Agent Miller. Elena, where are you? I'm worried about your safety. Liar. I needed help, real help. I remembered a name from the laptop. A fixer Grant had fired for being too aggressive.
Jack Silas.
I dialed the number. Yeah? A gruff voice answered. Jack Silas? This is Elena Mercer. I have the silver laptop. And I know Grant fired you. How would you like to get paid double to help me take down Volkov? Silent. Meet me at Navy Pier, Silas said. Come alone. I hailed a cab. Navy Pier, I told the driver. As we merged into traffic, I looked back. A gray SUV was 2 cars behind us. It changed lanes when we changed lanes. Grant was right. They were already on me. Driver, I said, handing him a $100 bill. I need you to drive like a maniac. The driver grinned. You got it, lady. He slammed on the gas. Elena is in a high-speed chase with a corrupt FBI agent on her tail. Can she trust the unstable hitman she just hired? Hit like and subscribe for part 4 to see the showdown at Navy Pier. The taxi driver, whose name was Manny according to the laminated ID on the dashboard, earned every cent of that $100 bill. He swerved across 3 lanes of traffic on Lakeshore Drive, cutting off a delivery truck and earning a symphony of horns. The gray SUV behind us was forced to slam on its brakes, getting stuck behind a wall of traffic. We lost M, lady, Manny shouted, grinning at me through the rearview mirror. Where to? Still the pier? Drop me 2 blocks north, I said, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. By the park entrance. I'll walk. I didn't want the SUV to find the cab stopped at the main entrance. I needed to disappear. I bailed out of the cab before it fully stopped, blending instantly into the stream of tourists. It was a Tuesday afternoon, but Navy Pier was packed. Families eating popcorn, teenagers taking selfies, the smell of fried dough and lake water filling the air. It was the perfect place to hide in plain sight. I clutched the Faraday bag against my chest. To anyone else, it looked like a laptop case. To me, it was a target painted on my back. I made my way to the Ferris wheel. It was a massive structure, towering over the Chicago skyline. Come alone, Jack Silas had said. I stood by the ticket booth, scanning the crowd. I was looking for someone who looked like a security consultant, someone tough, someone dangerous. You're standing in the open, a voice grated in my ear. Bad tactical position. I jumped, spinning around. Standing behind me wasn't a man in a suit. It was a guy in a faded hoodie and a grease-stained baseball cap. He had a 3-day beard and eyes that looked like they hadn't slept in a decade. He was holding a churro in one hand and looking at me with utter boredom. Jack Silas? I whispered. Keep walking, he muttered, taking a bite of the churro. Don't look at me. Look at the lake. We're being watched. My stomach dropped. The SUV? They found me? Not them, Jack said, steering me toward the railing overlooking the water. Two guys near the hot dog stand. Feds, but not the good kind. They're moving like they're looking for a reason to shoot. Change. Millers. Men. What do we do? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. We get on the boat, Jack said, nodding toward a tour boat that was just blowing its horn for departure. Architecture tour. Leaving in 2 minutes. Crowded, enclosed, single exit. If they follow us, I can bottle them up. We ran. We bought tickets with cash and jumped onto the deck just as the crew was pulling the gangway. The two men by the hot dog stand saw us. One of them tapped his earpiece and started jogging toward the dock, but he was too late. The boat churned away from the pier, leaving a widening gap of dark water. We sat on a bench near the stern, the wind whipping my hair across my face. Jack Silas looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time. "You're the Mercer wife," he said. It wasn't a question. I saw the news. Grant got picked up. I figured you were at home crying into a silk pillow. I was busy stealing this, I said, placing the Faraday bag on the bench between us. Jack raised an eyebrow. "The silver MacBook and the encrypted drives," I added. "I need help, Jack. Grant told me you were the only one who knew how the operation really worked. He said you were unstable." Jack let out a short, bark-like laugh. "Grant called me unstable because I told him Volkov was going to kill him eventually." Grant didn't like hearing the truth. He liked yes men and pretty girls. "Well, he's in a cell, and I'm here," I said. "And I have $50,000 in cash in my other bag. It's yours if you help me survive the next 24 hours. Jack looked at the bag, then at the laptop, then at the retreating skyline of Chicago. "50 grand won't cover a funeral," he said. "Volkov doesn't just kill people, Mrs. Mercer. He erases them. If Miller is involved, that means the FBI can't help you. You're a ghost walking." "I have leverage," I insisted. "The files are useless if you're dead," Jack snapped. "You think you can just email these to the New York Times? Volkov owns half the servers. He'll scrub it before it hits an inbox. You need a kill switch." "I don't have a kill switch," I admitted. "I have a laptop I can't even turn on because it has a tracker." Jack sighed. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. He scanned the Faraday bag. "Tracker is active," he confirmed. "But the bag is holding the signal." "Good thinking. Where did you learn that?" "Real Housewives of Espionage?" "YouTube," I said. He actually smiled. It was a terrifying expression. "All right. I've got a safe house. It's off the grid, lead-lined basement. We can open the laptop there, but we need to get off this boat without Miller's boys seeing us." The boat tour was an hour long. For 60 minutes, I sat next to a man who smelled like motor oil and gunpowder, watching the beautiful architecture of Chicago pass by. It was surreal. People were cheering, pointing at skyscrapers, while I was planning how to escape a federal hit squad. When the boat docked, Jack didn't lead me to the exit. He led me to the lower deck, near the engine room. "Wait for the crowd to bottleneck the exit," he instructed. "Then we jump the rail on the port side. There's a service ladder." We did exactly that. While the tourists were shuffling off the ramp, we climbed down a rusty ladder onto a maintenance pontoon and slipped away into the shadows of the lower pier. Jack had a car parked in a loading zone. It was an old Ford van that looked like it belonged to a plumbing company. Silas Plumbing was painted on the side. "Classy," I said, climbing into the passenger seat. "Invisible," he corrected. We drove for 40 minutes, heading south, deep into the industrial district. The safe house was a defunct auto repair shop surrounded by chain-link fences and barking dogs. Inside, Jack locked the heavy steel doors. He led me to a small office in the back. No windows, concrete walls. He turned on a signal jammer that hummed with a low frequency. "Okay," he said, pulling up a chair. "Take it out." I pulled the silver laptop out of the bag. Jack plugged a cable into it, connecting it to his own massive, custom-built computer rig. "I'm air-gapping it," he explained. "I'm mirroring the drive without letting it connect to the internet. If there's a tracker, it will think it's still in the bag. His fingers flew across his keyboard. Code scrolled down his screen in green waterfalls. I stood behind him, watching. Encryption is military grade, Jack muttered. Grant didn't set this up. Volkov's tech guys did. But wait. He paused. He squinted at the screen. What? I asked, leaning closer. There's a partition here, Jack said, pointing to a block of data. It's not encrypted like the rest. It's a dead man's switch. Grant set it up himself. What does it do? It's a timer, Jack said, looking up at me. If Grant doesn't enter a code every 24 hours, this file automatically emails itself to 5 specific addresses: Interpol, the Washington Post, the CIA. I checked my watch. Grant has been in custody for almost 24 hours. He hasn't entered the code. Exactly, Jack said. That's why Volkov is panicking. That's why Miller is desperate. They don't just want the evidence to destroy it. They need to stop the autosend. So if we do nothing, I started. The information leaks automatically, Jack finished. Grant's insurance policy. He's smarter than I thought. But wait, Jack frowned. Look at the timer, I told Girl. I looked. A countdown clock was ticking on the mirrored screen. In Spurbang, Osmado 45. 45 minutes. In 45 minutes, Volkov's entire empire gets exposed, Jack said. But here's the problem. The email originates from this laptop's IP address. The moment it sends, it broadcasts our exact location to every hitman in the hemisphere. So we let it send, and we run? I suggested. No, Jack shook his head. The upload will take 10 minutes. They can triangulate us in 2. They'll drop a missile on this building before the email finishes sending. Volkov has drone capabilities, Elena. My knees felt weak. So we have to stop it? If we stop it, we lose our leverage. If we let it send, we die. Jack looked at me. We have a third option. What? We move, Jack said, standing up and grabbing a shotgun from under the desk. We take the laptop to a place where they can't hit us, a place with so much interference and so many eyes that they can't strike. Where? Jack grinned. The Federal Plaza, right in front of Agent Miller's office. We upload the files using their public Wi-Fi. Let Volkov try to drone strike an FBI field office. It was insane. It was suicidal. It was brilliant. We have 40 minutes, I said, grabbing the laptop. Drive. We ran back to the van. Jack slammed on the gas, tires screeching as we peeled out of the garage. But as we turned onto the main road, a black sedan slammed into our side. Glass shattered. The van spun. We had been found. This mission just went from dangerous to deadly in a split second. We are spinning out of control, the files are ticking down, and the enemy is right on top of us. If you want to see if Elena and Jack survive the crash and make it to Federal Plaza in time, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and ring the bell. I thought I had won the war. I didn't know I had just started the apocalypse. The world was upside down. That was my first thought. My seatbelt dug into my collarbone and the smell of gasoline filled my nose. Beside me, Jack was groaning, blood trickling down his forehead. Elena, he rasped. Move. Now. Outside, heavy boots crunched on the glass. The men from the black sedan were coming to finish the job. I unclicked my buckle and fell onto the roof of the overturned van. I grabbed the laptop bag just as the first bullet pinged off the metal door. Go! Jack shouted. He kicked the shattered windshield out and crawled through, raising his shotgun. Boom! We scrambled out. We were in the middle of an intersection. Traffic had stopped. People were screaming. 2 men in tactical gear were taking cover behind their sedan, firing suppressed pistols. Jack took cover behind our wreck. I'm out of ammo after 2 more shells, he yelled. We need a car. I looked around. A Dodge Charger, engine idling, driver door open. The driver had stepped out to film the crash. An idiot! A useful idiot. Cover me! I screamed. I didn't wait. I sprinted. Bullets whizzed past me like angry hornets. One clipped the asphalt by my heel. I heard Jack's shotgun roar again, buying me a split second. I dove into the driver's seat. Keyless entry, thank God. I slammed the door and hit the gas, spinning the car around to shield Jack. "Get in!" I shrieked. Jack vaulted over the hood just as the rear window shattered. I floored it. The V8 engine roared and we fishtailed onto the main road, leaving the hit squad behind in a cloud of smoke. "Nice driving, soccer mom," Jack wheezed, clutching his bleeding side. "I drove carpool for 6 years," I said, gripping the wheel. "I know how to merge aggressively." "How much time?" Jack checked his watch. 28 minutes. Federal Plaza is usually a 30-minute drive. "Then we don't do traffic," I said. I took the on-ramp to I-90. It was gridlock. Rush hour. "We're not going to make it," Jack said grimly. "Elena, pull over. We upload it from here. We take the risk." "No. If we stop, Volkov's drone hits us. We have to keep moving." I swerved the Charger onto the shoulder. I hit 80 miles per hour. Gravel pinged against the undercarriage. I didn't care. 15 minutes. We exited at Congress Parkway. The skyscrapers rose up like canyon walls. The signal jammer in Jack's pocket was getting hot. "We're losing the signal cloak," Jack warned. "They can see us on the grid now." 3 blocks, I said. Suddenly, a black SUV T-boned the intersection ahead, blocking our path. Another blocked us from behind. "Ram it!" Jack yelled. "No, we run. The plaza is right there." We bailed out. The street was crowded with office workers. The sight of a bloodied man with a shotgun caused instant panic. People screamed and scattered. "Move! Move! Move!" Jack shouted. We ran toward the red steel sculpture that marked the center of Federal Plaza, the Alexander Calder Flamingo. "It's the Wi-Fi!" Jack yelled. "We need to be near the fountain."
5 minutes.
We reached the base of the statue. Jack ripped the laptop out. He flipped it open. "Connecting," he muttered. "Federal agents! Drop the weapon!" The voice boomed across the plaza. I looked up. Standing on the steps of the FBI building was Agent Miller. He was surrounded by a dozen tactical officers. "Jack, put the gun down," Miller shouted. "Elena, step away from the computer." Jack hesitated. 12 rifles were pointed at his chest. "Don't do it, Jack," I whispered. "Keep typing." "I can't type and aim at the same time," Jack hissed. I made a choice. I stepped in front of Jack. I put my body between him and the snipers. "Elena!" Jack yelled. "EB typing!" I ordered. I looked at Miller. He was 50 yards away. "Miller!" I screamed. "It's over! The upload is at 80%! Miller's face twisted. He tapped his earpiece. "Take the shot," he whispered. But the snipers didn't fire. They saw a civilian woman protecting a wounded man. They weren't going to fire without a clear threat. Miller realized he was losing control. He pulled his own sidearm. "He has a bomb!" Miller shouted. "The laptop is a detonator! Take the shot!" It was a lie. But panic rules. One officer shifted his aim. "Jack?" I asked. Almost Jack gritted out. Miller raised his gun. He aimed directly at me. Bang! I flinched, waiting for the pain. But I didn't fall. Agent Miller did. He crumpled to the ground, clutching his shoulder. I spun around. Standing near the street was a gray-haired woman in a pantsuit, my lawyer, and she had brought friends. "Federal Marshal Service!" a man shouted. "Stand down! Miller is the target!" Chaos erupted. The FBI agents turned on their commander. Jack hit the enter key. "Done," he exhaled. The screen flashed. Upload complete. Thousands of files. Bank accounts. Assassinations. Corrupt judges. All winging their way to the Washington Post. I fell to my knees. I watched as the marshals handcuffed Miller. It was over. Or so I thought. Jack groaned. Elena, look at the feed. He pointed to the laptop. A new window had popped up. Not a confirmation. A chat message. Sender unknown. Message, you have caused me great inconvenience. Check your voicemail. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out. One new voicemail. I pressed play. You have destroyed my business, a distorted voice said, but you forgot about the asset you left behind. Then a new sound. A voice I recognized instantly.
Mom?
Mom, what's going on? These guys, they have guns.
Mom.
It was my son, Tyler, my 20-year-old son at college in Boston. You have 24 hours, the digital voice returned. Come to the warehouse on 4th Street. Bring the laptop. Come alone, or Tyler pays your debt. The phone slipped from my fingers and shattered on the concrete. I had won the battle, but I had just started the war. Elena just took down the FBI, but now her son is in the hands of the Russian mob. Kenshik Grant thought he lost his money. Volkov thought he lost his freedom. They didn't realize they had both just lost to a housewife. I stood in the middle of Federal Plaza, the shattered remains of my phone at my feet. The sounds of the city faded into a dull buzz. All I could hear was my son's terrified voice echoing in my head. Mom, help. My lawyer was talking to a marshal. Jack was leaning against the statue, holding his bleeding side. They were discussing witness protection. I'm not going into protection, I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through their conversation like a razor. Jack looked up. Elena, you have to. Volkov just threatened. Volkov has my son, I interrupted. He doesn't want me to hide. He wants me to come to him. The marshal stepped forward. Mrs. Mercer, we can't let you do that. This is a hostage situation now. We have tactical teams. If you send a tactical team, I said, looking him dead in the eye, Volkov will kill Tyler before you even breach the door. You know that. So what's the plan? Jack asked. You just walk into a lion's den with a laptop bag and hope he plays nice? No, I said. I looked at the silver MacBook. I walk in there and give him the only thing he cares about more than revenge. Access. The upload exposed his crimes, but it didn't touch his offshore money. He needs the encryption key. Jack realized what I was thinking. Elena, if you give him that key, he disappears. He wins. He can have the money, I said. I just want my son. I turned to the marshal. I need you to put a tracker on me, a wire, but you do not move in until I say the word. Do you understand? The warehouse on 4th Street was a relic of Chicago's industrial past. I walked in through the main sliding door. I was alone. My hands were empty, except for a flash drive held tightly in my right fist. The space was cavernous. In the center, under a single hanging bulb, sat a wooden chair. My son Tyler was tied to it. Mom! Don't come in! It's a trap! Quiet! Dmitry Volkov stepped out of the shadows. He looked like a grandfather, but the gun in his hand was very real. Mrs. Mercer Volkov smiled. You are a very difficult woman to kill. Emma, a mother, I said. We're persistent. I see you brought the drive. The black box key? It's all here, I said. Grant's private key, access to the Cayman accounts, the Swiss vaults, billions of dollars. Volkov's eyes gleamed. Bring it to me. Let Tyler go first. Volkov laughed. You are in no position to bargain. Drive first, then the boy. I hesitated. I looked at Tyler. I placed the flash drive in Volkov's outstretched hand. He handed it to his tech guy. Check it. The tech guy plugged it in. It's real. The encryption is unlocking. I see the accounts. The balances. Holy mother. Volkov smiled. He had won. Good. You kept your end of the bargain. Now let him go, I demanded. Volkov nodded to the guard. The guard cut the zip ties on Tyler's wrists. Tyler ran to me. I grabbed him, shielding him with my body. Go, Volkov waved his hand. Leave. Before I change my mind. I backed away, holding Tyler tight. We moved toward the exit. Wait, Volkov called out. Why? Why give it up? You could have been rich. I'm already rich, I said, looking at my son. We stepped out into the night air. Run, I whispered to Tyler. Run to the end of the block. As Tyler sprinted away, I stopped just outside the door. I reached into my pocket and pressed a button on the tiny remote Jack had given me. Inside the warehouse, the tech guy frowned. Sir? The transfer, it's redirecting. What? Volkov snapped. Redirecting where? At a boat. It's sending the funds to the United States Treasury, specifically the Asset Forfeiture Department. Stop it! Volkov screamed. I can't! It's a worm! It's deleting the backups! The money is gone! Volkov roared. Kill her! Kill the woman! But before his men could raise their rifles, the skylights above them shattered. Crash. Jack Silas dropped from the catwalks like an avenging angel. He fired 2 flashbangs. Bang! Flash! Ust från dagen brukar med scout need. White light blinded them, and then the walls breached. An armored truck rammed the doors open. Federal agents! Drop your weapons! I stood outside, listening to the chaos. The sound of an empire crumbling. The marshal walked over to me. We got them. Volkov is in custody. The money has been seized. I know, I said. I initiated the transfer myself. You gave the government $4 billion? I looked back at the warehouse. Consider it a donation. Just make sure Grant gets a cellmate who snores. 6 months later, the morning sun hit the balcony of my new penthouse, bought with my own money. My book deal, The Wife Who Waited, bestseller. I sipped my coffee and opened the newspaper. Grant Mercer sentenced to 25 years. Russian crime syndicate dismantled. Tyler walked out onto the balcony holding 2 plates of waffles. Breakfast is served. My phone buzzed. It was Jack, texting from Bali. Saw the news. Grant is crying about the prison food. Calmly, I smiled. Send him a menu. I looked at my reflection in the glass door. The woman staring back wasn't a victim. She was a grand master who had cleared the board. The doorbell rang. Probably the florist. I walked through my own living room to answer my own door. Grant was right about one thing. He had built an empire, but he forgot that empires only last as long as the queens allow them to. And this queen? She was just getting started. Elena Mercer went from a crying housewife to taking down the Russian mob and saving her son. That is how you handle a divorce. If you loved this series, hit that like button and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, what would you have